Ladies and gentlemen, it is your captain checking in again, Nick at the BI Edge here. So we are looking at the Google Cloud platform again today. We have this is a great way to practice your SQL or SQL-based skills. We did a basic video previously, just looking at some average count functions. Today we are going to add a where clause, and we are going to add clauses such as um, order by and uh, and sort of just link up a few different things using instead of using like an if function in Excel, we're going to use sort of more kind of like a counting function in SQL here. So I've got my same data set up here again as the other day, the car info data set. So to start off with here, I want to go select and then I go count if. So we'll go to a count if the same as what we would do typically on Excel. Okay, and we comes up here with count if and then expression. Okay, so I've got count if expression. So what's a variable that I want to measure here? What do I want to measure the count if of? Okay, so we want to know the count if horsepower. So we're going to say horsepower is our variable. Okay, because we can see that horsepower is a variable here. It's an integer, so we're good to go there. So we've got horsepower is, we'll say, greater than 5. Okay, all right. So we can sort of see there, okay, and then maybe for a limit, we want to do a limit again. So I'm just going to go for limit. I just want the first 10 values to come up, okay? So what are the sort of 10 values there where horsepower is greater than 5? So I can just run this now, okay, and I can see there that there's 203 um, in values or 203 cars in the data set that have a horsepower that's greater than 5. Okay, so that sort of gives me a bit of an understanding. If I go up here to 1,000, okay, for this, it doesn't really make a difference. It just still gives me 203. Okay, so that's a way that you can use countif function here in SQL. So if I want to change this around a bit, I can go 10. Okay, and we can go run. All right, and there's 203. Okay, so they're all higher than 10. We know that. I don't know what horsepower's measurement is within this data set, but let's just go to 100, for example. Okay, so how many cars are there that have horsepower greater than 100? Okay, there's 92. So, if you've got something, you're working in the car industry, say working for Audi or BMW or Toyota, Holden, and the boss says, look, we need to know out of all our national sales, how many cars was sold with the horsepower over 100, then you could just answer that question by using this here in SQL. Okay. All right. So that's kind of makes it a bit interesting. Now let's make it a bit more complex. So let's just say boss said to you, okay, well, we want to know um, all the cars how many cars with a horsepower over 100 that were under or equal to $15,000 were sold. Okay, so now we have to go where. Okay, so we go where price. So we look for our price variable here next. So we look down. There's price there, so we know we're good to go. So this will be where price is less than or equal to 15,000. Okay, so we get our green light, tick of approval, that is good to go. With on the Google Cloud platform, BigQuery, you'll always get this query will process up here on the top right-hand corner. If it's got the green tick, then you know you're good to go. If you get red tick or red cross, then you know that you've messed the query up somewhere. So just sort of look at that when you're learning here how to use SQL. Okay, we go run here. All right. So we've got 37 there. So 37 cars that are $15,000 or less within this data set have a horsepower over 100 here. Okay, they have a horsepower over 100. So that's an interesting way there of just kind of working out how that works from a county perspective. If we wanted to look for more of a total, then obviously we would start using some ifs. Looking for an average, then an average if. So we just sort of change that around accordingly there. Okay, so we're still sort of in beginner kind of SQL territory here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into an intermediate based SQL query next. Okay, so I'm going to step this up a little bit. And what this is okay, well, that's beginner. What does an intermediate SQL analysts do. So, we're sort of getting into the more advanced senior data analyst space roles, people who are starting out in data engineering, once we start to look in that intermediate kind of phase. But, once again, like there's intermediate goes a fair way with SQL. But, this is just a good one to sort of show you, what that would kind of look like. So if we go select next, we're going to go engine location as our string here, our string variable, engine underscore location. Okay, we want to go comma, and then we want the average height. Okay, average height. Okay, and we want that as average underscore height. Okay, all right, so they're the variables there for the first line where price is less than or equal to. Okay, and now what I want to do is I want to do a group by force down here. So here I go cat, so group by, second one down here, group by, and I'm going to go engine location here, so engine underscore location. And then from there, I'm going to go order by average, and we're going to go height, and then we want that as descending. Okay, so you can go descending and ascending. So that's just kind of like filtering in Excel. You know how when you go down, drop down bar and you go descending or ascending, A to Z or Z to A, or use the sort. It's basically the same thing here. Okay, and then the group by is pretty much grouping it, kind of giving you some form of a pivot here. The where is kind of like the if kind of condition to some degree. Okay, so here it is here. We're going to go run. Okay, so the average height for the engine location at the front is 53.43 there. Okay, so basically, if we look at this now, we've gone select engine location, as the average height or average height as average height here. So we want to know the average height, which is this from the engine location. This is the data set here with the from, where is price is less than or equal to 15,000. So once again, that's the condition, 15,000 for price. I can change this to 30,000, which we'll do for the next one. Okay, just to have a bit of fun. Okay, and then we go group by engine underscore location. Okay, so we're grouping it by the engine location. And then, the order by is the average height in terms of descending, and we go from there. Okay, and we go 30,000, then we still get the same sort of value there. So that's a more advanced based SQL query there. We'll do another one here, like a really basic one. So I'm just going to go back next. The start here, I'm just going to leave the select from the from because we usually use that. But if you just look at select where from, average count sum, that is the start of your SQL journey. And then from there, you start to add those extra functionalities in to start, get building that proficiency within SQL. Okay, so I'm going to go select horsepower, engine underscore size. Okay, so these are I'm selecting two variables here. I'm selecting horsepower and engine underscore size. So what's looking at kind of like what's the relationship between these two variables? That would be a good way to kind of look at it. Okay, and then we go where we're going to go height is less than or equal to 100. Okay, and then down here, I would go limits 100. Okay, and then we run. Okay, and you can see there that I've got the two columns, the two variables. I've got horsepower and I've got engine size. And then I've got all the values there coming down here. So that's another easy one that you can sort of tap out. And then the last thing that we'll touch on today is just a distinct. So how does a distinct clause work in SQL? Well, you would go here and you would go select distinct, okay? And in this instance, we might use the variable of the make of car, okay? So I'm just going to say the make, okay? And then once again, I can do my where. We can go where price is less than or equal to 100, and then go limit 10, okay? All right, and run the query. All right, so now we can see there that Audi, Isuzu, and Porsche are the three cars there within this data set that meet these particular conditions. Okay, so that is something sort of interesting to know there. Okay. So that's sort of some basic, more basic functionalities there in SQL, throwing in a little bit of intermediate stuff, but still very much in the basic proficiency phase. As we keep developing in this series, start to look into inner and outer joins and the more complex sort of database management and engineering based SQL queries. Thanks for your time today, guys, and I look forward to catching you in the next video. Cheers.